And another piece of data that I think is extremely important to collect is student feedback. Students students are our reason for being. And sometimes you have to remind people of that.
You're listening to Student Success Heroes, a podcast produced by Engineerica Systems. Welcome to our fifth and final episode for this mini-series with Dr. Penny Turrentine, adjunct faculty member and program coordinator for Aztec Academics at Pima Community College. She is a greatly admired, deeply respected former Learning Center director and continued student-athlete mentor. We have been discussing some of the foundational pillars upon which to build your learning center for success. In this mini-series, we've learned about the need for continued professional development of learning center staff, ways to gain support from faculty and administrators, how to be resourceful when budgets are tight, as well as ensuring your center is focused on the students and their success. We invite you to listen to or revisit our previous episodes for more insights on these important pillars for your center. For this episode, we will talk about data and feedback collection that serves to support your center's mission and help you to make continuous improvement. In setting up your center, you mentioned a critical piece in your book. You emphasized one of the biggest expenses for a program is the software that provides the operational support for the staff, data collection for the program, and learning support for the students. And Engineerica, my company, is a provider of such software, and we agree that this is an extremely important decision for each center. What would you say learning center directors need to keep in mind when they're selecting this important part of their centers?
Well, I think the first thing is you really need to know what your needs are. If you're going to pay that kind of money, and software is not cheap, but you need to know it fits your needs. And then you need to get input from IT that this is going to work in your college.
Yes, they are critical partners.
Yes. And of course, the cost is something you have to consider. But the other thing to me is that does the software company provide training? Because the IT people are not going to know how to do that. And the other thing is ongoing customer support. If there's a problem, yes, the IT people are going to try to help you, but they're not the experts on that software. So you need to know going in that that software company is going to be responsive when you run into a glitch. And I don't know any software that isn't going to have an occasional glitch. You know, it's just the nature of the beast.
Yes.
But foremost, know exactly what you need. Think about it. Don't rush into it. Don't buy it because everybody's doing it. Ask. And you know, let's go back to Learn Assist. If you're thinking about purchasing some software, throw it out there. Get other people's experiences with it.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Yep. Do your homework. And, you know, a plug for Engineerica. You want to know that if you have an idea or a suggestion, that they're going to be responsive. And we all know that that was the case when we bought AccuTrack.
Yes.
It's evolved so much since when I first got it for our East Campus Learning Center. So.
Yes, I've heard stories from our CEO that he spoke with you and you gave him great suggestions and he was able to implement them.
And he's continued to be responsive over the years. In fact, I think that I've seen that not only from my point of view, but from other people who've contacted Engineerica and said, we need this or we need to do that. And it's worked out very well. So.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. And we definitely want to support learning centers and make sure that they get their needs addressed. So even if we're not the right fit for them, we definitely want to help them explore the options and make sure they know what's available and make the best choice for their centers.
Well, I think it's ever changing too, because we're all ever changing in our learning centers and our needs are ever changing. Yes. So the software has to be ever changing too.
Exactly. Like we just added a whole bunch of virtual session options because of COVID and everyone needing to meet online. So now you can track those still through our academia or AccuCampus products.
Right. That's great. I mean, definitely a need.
Yes. Well, in Chapter 10 of your book, you also point out the need for evaluation. And of course, you state it best saying, with the daily demands of running a learning center, collecting data may not be at the top of the list. In fact, the prospect of finding time to assume the role of statistician may lose its appeal. And and then you point out David Gerken, former director of the Learning Support Center at Paradise Valley Community College in Arizona, said that data collection is a must and that in tough economic times, we may find ourselves in a position to have to justify our existence and improve chances of continuation and expansion while maintaining or increasing resource allocation. And I have two related questions. So first, what are the types of data learning center directors should be looking at in terms of evaluation and making necessary improvements to their centers and the operations within?
Well, I think, first of all, you need to show administrators that the students are, in fact, using the centers.
Yes.
So you definitely need those usage statistics. And I think that's why we got together with AccuTrack in the beginning, was how do we document this aside from a piece of paper and a dull pencil,
Yeah, we took a lot of people out of the spreadsheets into a program that they can just pull a report from. So yes.
And another piece of data that I think is extremely important to collect is student feedback. Students students are a reason for being. And sometimes you have to remind people of that. We did surveys at least once a semester, if not more. And some of the questions had to do not only with how they experienced their interaction with the Learning Center staff, but also how the tutors worked with them. Did the tutor seem to know what they were talking about? Did they help you to understand the material better? And this was very important to me. Student needs to understand. This is not a homework help center. This is not a place where you help them finish an assignment that they can turn in and they haven't learned anything. The questions were designed to bring out in the students not only about the people in the center, but what they got out of the experience. We actually lucked out in our center not too long before I retired. Pima College has had for years a wonderful research department. And as it turned out, when the college made the decision to purchase AccuTrack for the entire college, one of the people in the research department became very interested in looking at how the Learning Center support contributed to student persistence. And what did the grades look like compared to students who weren't using the Learning Center? So these research people were the experts. We were able to set up AccuTrack so that they could draw the information. And we got the most wonderful collection of data, looking at all kinds of different things. And the person who was spearheading this whole data collection process got so excited about what she was seeing and the impact of the Learning Center on student success that she asked if she could use this data for a presentation she was using at a conference for people in her field. So together, we could collect this rich body of information that absolutely demonstrated that we had a reason to be there. Administrators so often are people who are so data-driven because they're so reading from students, and so they make their decisions based on the collection of data. Well, we had a collection. Right now, of course, things are different, but it made a positive impact on what we were doing.
Yes, and we've seen that with many of our clients. They have taken the data beyond just the how many visits are we getting and should we change our hours or our staffing needs to what are we able to do and impact in terms of our student success with our learning centers and the services that are offered there. Are the students who are coming to our centers, is it having an impact on their persistence, on their graduation rates, on the different student populations that might be more at risk?
Yes, and we are located about 60 miles north of the Mexican border. And so we have a tremendous number of students whose first language is Spanish. Strangely enough, we have a lot of Asian students. So we have a lot of populations that are, first generation college students, language barriers and all kinds of things. And so it's really, really important that we address those needs and that we can show that we're making a difference there too.
Definitely. My second question goes along with this, but it's my belief that this recent pandemic has forced many learning center directors into a position of defense of their learning centers, of their staff, and the budgets that support their work and even their own positions are in question. This data collection will certainly be critical in the evaluation of our success and continued support. Can you think of some ways that we can frame the data or specific data points that we can look to and present to our administrators and constituents to protect what we've built, especially during these difficult times and where they're looking to cut budgets and everything like that?
Well, I wish I could give you a really knowledgeable answer about that. Since I've been retired for 2.5 years, I haven't had much contact with the various leaders of our learning centers. We had a learning center working group where we would sit down and discuss what our needs were, if we needed to change direction of anything, how to resolve issues. Well, not quite as drastic as the pandemic. I know that they have come together to offer online tutoring. I've not had a chance to talk to many students about how that's working for them. I know the traffic has not been nearly as heavy.
Yes, that's what I've heard as well. I've heard several of our clients have quickly switched gears and set up online tutoring and made sure that their tutors are available remotely by appointment in some cases and on demand. They've set up ways for the students to just contact them at will during their hours and even have extended their hours to, late nights and early mornings and weekends and things because they know that the students' schedules have altered significantly being based at home with other family members and other obligations now. I know that they've been able to pivot and make sure that they're still operating, but the question still remains, and I think they're looking at the data of how big of an impact did this have on our traffic? How big of an impact has it had on students' persistence? I mean, did we lose a lot of students? I think that's something that we're all questioning and looking at.
Right. And I think that has happened in so many colleges. I know Pima has lost some students. It's an incredible situation we're all in.
It is. It's very unique.
And I don't know if you've seen on Learn Assist how much information is being shared by learning centers supporting learning centers on how to navigate this situation we're in.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've even seen a new a community put together by Casey Bell. I'm trying to remember what school she's with, but it's a learning center director or learning center manager's Discord board where there's all sorts of different sections that you can ask different questions about, like what should we be doing to train our tutors to tutor online, and what should we be doing to social distance and set up safety in our centers. So there's all sorts of different discussions going on that board and in Learn Assist as well.
Yes.
I mean, we definitely are turning to each other, which I think, shows our resourcefulness.
I was just going to say, shows that we're the most resourceful people on the planet.
Yes, exactly. And if you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, everyone I've spoken to, everyone seems to be very resilient and just moving forward. They're not just sitting, waiting, helpless. They're taking action and trying to do their best.
Yeah, learning center people do that. They're quite an amazing group. And one of the things I'm missing most, aside from the big hugs from my tall people, is missing the CRLA conference.
Yes, we're doing that virtually.
Yes, not going to be the same because these are my friends. These are the people who, even when I sometimes felt maybe my institution didn't support me the way I would like, the people in CRLA sure do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I met you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, in fact, do you know who Russ Hodges is?
Yes, I met Russ.
He was the former CRLA president. He's at Texas State.
Yeah.
And Lucy McDonald, we all decided to get on Zoom and have a margarita party one Friday.
That's perfect. Yes.
Yep. So, yeah, I will miss them, and I'm looking forward to next year.
We'll have to have some more virtual parties.
Yes, works for me. And hopefully I'll see you in Cincinnati. I hope.
Oh, yes, I hope so. I hope we all are there.
Well, I think Mon should be there too. You can tell him I said that.
Yes, I will. I'll tell Mon he needs to be there.
It's time,
Well, we got a little off track, but Penny, your book, which is titled Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Learning Centers and Then Some, is just full of great ideas, considerations, advice, especially for those who are just establishing a learning center at their schools or for those who are very new to the position of managing a learning center. I really believe it's going to be a huge asset to those who read it. It's been out for a little over a year now, and I think those who read it and apply the principles and ideas within are going to find it especially helpful. So to wrap things up, what are 2, maybe 3 things that you really hope that readers of your book will come away with?
Well, I think the number one thing to me is remember why you're there. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. Train your staff, set up your environment, set up your training so that you support the reason that you're there, and that is to help students be successful. That's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Penny. Let me know if there's anything else you want to share with our audience. We'll definitely put a link to your book in the podcast notes. And I think you have another book out there, specifically helping the athletic student population. So I'll link to that as well.
Yeah, that one's called Champions in the Classroom.
Thank you so much, Penny. This has been awesome.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and thank you for the opportunity.
These discussions with Dr. Penny Turrentine were so rewarding and insightful for me. I hope they have been helpful to you and will help other college and university support center professionals. I encourage you to share this series with others you believe may benefit from listening to it. The inspiration for this series is Dr. Penny Turrentine, her rich history in center management, and of course her recent publication, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Learning Centers and Then Some. You can find this book at H&H Publishing, and I'll put a link to this in our show notes. This show is produced by Engineerica Systems. To learn more about Engineerica and student support software, please visit Engineerica.com. That's ENGINEERICA.com. We track everything so that you can take care of your center.